A gang of beggars are supposedly raking in around £500 a day, pretending to be homeless. Sorry, those emails have got me right. Pretending to be homeless in the posh spa town of Bath. How will Bath ever recover? The group of around 10 men and women have been seen apparently travelling in flash cars to prey on residents and tourists to make cash. They then scuttle back to their council houses just a few miles away in Bristol. So we're asking, should we ever give money to beggars? I decided to go to the streets, I mean, where else, to see whether or not people are ever sceptical of beggars. Should they give them money? Take it away, people.
No, my heart goes out to them. You wonder what's happened to them. We have to deal with this. It's, in a compassionate society, we have to deal with homeless people. We can't just ignore them.
Is it right to give them money, do you think?
Well, they might be spending it on drugs or alcohol, you just don't know. I don't say it's wrong, but don't assume that money is going to necessities.
You're better off letting the appropriate services deal with it. If I give them money, they might use it on drugs or alcohol. And if I'm going to give them something, I'd rather give them food or a hot drink rather than money itself.
Yeah, from time to time. Not every time, but I do.
Okay. I do. Try not to judge people. I feed them. I ask them. Yeah, ask them if they're hungry, buy them food.
All right. Right, well, let's speak to someone now with some first-hand experience of dealing with people on the streets. Gary Hayes, a former British Transport Police officer. Gary, look, thank you very, very much. And again, when you get on trains, etc., you do see these people who come down the trains, and so often they've got those little notes, don't they, saying, I don't know, I've got an ill kid, can you please help me out? The suspicion there, and I always feel awful saying this, but the suspicion there is that they're blagging it.
You're absolutely right, and I think what people need to realise is that, take away the empathy side of it and look at the person. They're part of major criminal gangs that are benefiting from the goodwill and the good nature of people who are assuming that these individuals are struggling and they need help. The money very rarely goes to the individual collecting. It's often collected by somebody else along the chain and is obviously used for other criminal activities and to fund any other sort of form of criminality. It's an unfortunate sort of set of circumstances we find ourselves in, especially on the rail network at this time.
But those people, presumably the people who are actually going around actually asking for money, they're obviously at the low end of this criminal organisation. And then they, either get on a minibus or go wherever at the end of the day, and there's some Mr. Big waiting, and they give them the money. So those people actually doing the begging, ironically, probably are in need of a bit of help themselves, but they are part of a bigger gang. Is that right?
I would suggest that is right. And, you need to look at it for what it is. These are well-organised gangs, well-organised people. And whilst the individual doing the begging, whether it be the selling of tissues on trains or just simply walking about with a cup, they will receive very little or probably nothing from the amount of money they've collected on that day. They may be given food at some stage or something to drink, but invariably they will not see the sort of rewards of their day's efforts.
Yeah, so that's the other reason, because the next question I was going to say was, should we ever give money to homeless people or to beggars? And the answer that people usually give is, well, I would give them food. I wouldn't necessarily give them money because I'd be worried that they'd spend it on drink or drugs, really, which, is a problem. It's often one of the reasons why people might be on the streets. But the kind of people who are walking up and down trains tend to be a little bit different. I mean, I suppose then the argument would be there's no point giving them money because they're not going to get it anyway, are they?
But the individual who is coming across and giving these people money, it's often very intimidating and uncomfortable for a person when they're confronted with a beggar, whether they be an aggressive beggar or otherwise, because, let's face it, a beggar stood in front of you on a packed commuter train, you will feel obliged to give them something just so they move away from you and take the problem away from you. I feel personally it's better to give nothing because obviously you're just encouraging the act. They've often committed offences to get onto the rail network anyway. And it's just reinforcing the fact that it's okay for them to be there and do it when in fact it's not a lawful act. And unfortunately, as we just said, people do feel extremely uncomfortable when you've got an individual in front of you.
It is
just stood
uncomfortable,
there
especially
with
when
their
you
attitude.
linger around. But then I always feel, this is the thing, isn't it? Because then you always think, well, am I not giving money to the genuine person? And you see some of them, and some of them appear to be pregnant, whether or not they actually are. You never know, do you? I mean, no one ever actually feels their belly, do you? And see if it's a fake, because then probably get arrested for that, and rightly so. But it is a tricky situation. I think it tugs on the heartstrings a lot. I suppose it's each to their own. If somebody wants to part with some of their own money and give it to whoever they want, then they've got to be free to do that. But I think maybe people should be more aware that there are criminal gangs at play here, and it's often, I think, as you alluded to, part of a bigger operation. They've probably also got a lot of other side hustles as well. But Gary, thank you very much for coming on. Much appreciated. I appreciate you making the time for us, especially on a Friday evening.